Deep in the remote highlands of the Guatemalan jungle, far beyond the last marked trail and the reach of ordinary maps, stood the half-buried ruins of an ancient temple once dedicated to a forgotten order of crystal keepers. Local legends spoke of a chamber that held a single perfect specimen, an enormous crystal carrot, clear as ice yet glowing with an inner amber light. Those who had sought it never returned. Terry, the unofficial leader of the group known among themselves as the Feral Barrels, had studied every fragmentary account until she was convinced the prize was real. "We are going," she announced one evening, spreading weathered notes across the table. "Remote, dangerous, and absolutely worth it. Think Indiana Jones, only with better snacks." Amber, always the most cautious, twisted a strand of hair around her finger. "Remote usually means things that want to eat us." Sarah placed a steady hand on Ellie's shoulder. "I'll keep Ellie safe. That's non-negotiable." Ellie twitched, her Tourette's asserting itself with a sharp vocalization. "We're all gonna die." She grimaced apologetically. "Sorry, automatic." Charlotte folded her arms. "Terry, what have you got us into this time?" Joe only grinned. "If we meet any zombies, they probably just need a hug and a proper rescue. Everyone's redeemable." Despite the reservations, they went. The journey required 3 days of hard travel through dense canopy, across swollen rivers, and along crumbling stone paths overgrown with vines. The air grew heavier the closer they drew to the temple. Strange crystalline formations jutted from the earth like broken teeth, some faintly luminous in the perpetual green gloom. The entrance was a low archway choked with roots. Inside, the corridors followed classic temple logic. Pressure plates that triggered falling spears, a chamber of shifting floor tiles that demanded careful counting, and a final descending staircase lit by their headlamps alone. At the bottom lay a circular vault. In its center, resting on a pedestal of black stone, stood the crystal carrot. It was nearly as tall as Amber, its translucent body faceted with impossible precision. The tip pointed upward like a natural spear. Soft light pulsed within it, slow and rhythmic, as though the object breathed. Terry approached first, awe softening her usual boldness. "It's perfect," she whispered, "a sign from the universe." The moment her fingers brushed the crystal surface, the light flared. A low vibration rolled through the stone floor. From the shadowed alcoves around the chamber, figures began to rise, dried and leathery, their clothing reduced to tatters, eyes empty yet somehow aware. Previous seekers, or perhaps the original guardians, now animated by whatever force the crystal had released. They moved with the stiff, relentless gait of the recently awakened dead. Amber immediately backed against the nearest wall, voice small. "I knew it. I knew remote was a bad idea." Sarah stepped in front of Ellie without hesitation, one arm extended protectively. "Stay behind me. Do not move unless I say." Ellie's tics erupted in rapid succession. "We're all gonna die. We're all gonna die. Hug the zombies. No, wait." Charlotte glared at Terry while edging toward the stairs. "Terry, what have you got us into?" Joe, astonishingly, took a step forward with open arms. "Look at them. They're lost. They just want connection. Come here, you poor things. Let's get you rescued." One of the undead reached for Joe with a skeletal hand. Sarah yanked her back by the collar. "Not the time for hugs." The crystal carrot continued to pulse, each throb sending a fresh wave of energy through the chamber. The undead grew more coordinated, herding the group toward the center. Terry, realizing the artifact was both prize and catalyst, made a swift decision. She seized the crystal carrot by its base, it was surprisingly light for its size, and shouted for the others to run. They fled up the staircase as the temple began to shake. Falling dust and loose stones marked their path. Amber stayed close to Sarah, who kept Ellie shielded at every turn. Charlotte kept a running commentary of pointed remarks directed at Terry. Joe continued to call back toward the pursuing figures, insisting they only needed compassion and a good long rest. Ellie's involuntary declarations of doom provided an unwelcome soundtrack. Outside, under the sudden brightness of the jungle canopy, the undead did not follow far. The farther the crystal carrot was carried from the pedestal, the weaker the animation became. By the time the group reached the river and the relative safety of their waiting boat, the last of the figures had collapsed into inert heaps of bone and cloth. They sat in exhausted silence as the current carried them away. The crystal carrot rested between them, still faintly glowing, its surface cool and flawless. Terry ran a hand along one facet and finally spoke. I may have underestimated the side effects. Charlotte answered without looking up. You think? Amber managed a shaky laugh. At least we got the carrot. Sarah checked Ellie for any injury, then nodded once. Everyone is accounted for. That is what matters. Ellie's next tick was quieter. We're all gonna die, eventually, but not today. Joe leaned against the gunwale, already planning. Next time we should bring snacks for the undead. Proper hospitality might prevent the whole rising from the dead situation. The crystal carrot caught a shaft of sunlight and threw fractured rainbows across the boat. Whether it was a genuine sign from the universe or simply a beautiful, dangerous relic, the feral barrels carried it home. Some prizes, they decided, were worth the risk, provided one brought enough friends to argue, protect, complain, and attempt unwanted hugs along the way.
You didn't come to us.